Hello and welcome back to the Reptile Goth YouTube channel. As always, I am Morgan. This week we're looking at a study that was published fairly recently that looked at the movement of anchovies and oxygen content in their habitat. The study in question that we're looking at today was published fairly recently and had an interesting amount of data and correlations that they were finding. So they took information dating back to the 1950s up until fairly recent times. And this data was specifically showing the distribution of anchovies in their habitat and the range in which you can find them. For those of you that don't know, anchovies are a marine fish. So they were looking at specifically the ocean. And what they saw was that these anchovies could be found in different locations in different years, not only with their latitude, longitude, but also with the depth and where they were found in the water column. These researchers then also were looking at data from the temperature of the ocean, the oxygen content, pretty much anything they could get their hands on. And they were also real-time sampling things like that as well. And what they were finding was that the anchovies were only really being found in areas where the temperature was lower and the oxygen content was higher. So let's pause for a minute here and talk about water for a second. Now, water is a very interesting molecule. It is the solvent of life, and it can dissolve a whole heck of a lot of things. Specifically, water dissolves things like salts, and it also dissolves gases. So I'm sure anyone who recognizes that water dissolves things, if they take sugar, for example, and try to dissolve it into water, you'll recognize that a warmer water will dissolve your sugar more quickly than a cooler water will. This is because temperature changes the properties of water. And as water warms up, it can hold less oxygen. So these researchers were noting that as the climate is warming, as the ocean is warming, at least these little pockets of deoxygenated ocean water are popping up, which is then rendering the habitat within those little pockets of warm deoxygenated water uninhabitable, and the anchovies are moving around. They took the data that they'd collected and put that into projections and modeled what could happen assuming there's no change at all. And what they're finding is that by the year 2100, a very large part of the southern range in this anchovy habitat will be uninhabitable. Now, why is that such a big deal? Well, anchovies are one of the bottom trophic levels of this marine ecosystem, meaning they're at the bottom of the food chain. If these bottom levels cannot exist in these habitats, then as you move up, nothing else is going to be existing in these habitats. And you will get these massive dead zones and further ecological impacts. So this anchovy data is kind of an indication of something more serious happening in these oceans. And it's a study that's showing that as the climate warms, as nothing's being done, there is habitat that is being lost, and there's habitat that is being rendered unusable in real time with things that you can see. And these creatures, like the anchovies, are where you're going to see the warnings, because as the base of these food webs move, so does the rest of the food web. As there are parts of a habitat that are unusable, it's going to lay barren until something evolves that can then handle those new conditions, or something that already exists that you would never find there moves in. And this just leads to a spiral effect further down. So I don't really want to jump up on my soapbox for too long here, but it's studies like these that I believe are things that are kind of overlooked by the average everyday person, but they are studies that are showing the impacts of our changing climate. They're showing the impacts, at least at the warning level, of what is going on. And I fully believe that now is the time that people need to be making the decisions to look at what's going on and make those tough choices of how are we going to deal with it? How are we going to minimize these effects? How are we going to slow the negative impacts? I don't have the answers here of what can be done, but I do strongly encourage everyone to read the study, read the article I have linked down below, and do their own research. Look at what else is going on in the ecosystem. Look at the projections for the future, and please educate yourself on things like this. I'm sorry for a little bit of a downer here, but I do think it is important since we are seeing these changes at the bottom levels of ecosystems, and if the bottom levels move or collapse, the rest of the ecosystem will collapse, and that also has implications for human society and the people that rely on these ecosystems and those of us that enjoy seafood, for example. But please do your research, read those articles, and until next time, have a good day. Thank you again for watching this video. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, and ring that bell if you would like to see more. And if you'd like to follow me on any of my other social medias, the links are down in the description below. Don't forget to check out thereptilegoth.com for all of my articles and blog posts. If you found any value in this video and you would like to help support the channel, please check out my Patreon page. That link is also in the description down below. And a special thanks goes out to my Diamond Dragon patron, Diane V. What you're doing is really helping me fund a dream here. I will see you guys all in the next one.